You actually have to take your message, your vision, and put it out in the world in a way that connects with people that you're trying to serve. So you can actually make an impact. You can help people. You can make a difference in this world with your products, your services, your leadership. That's where marketing comes in. Welcome to Badass Softy, a podcast for leaders who are unapologetically ambitious and want to lead with heart because you're allowed to chase big goals without losing what makes you human. I'm your host, Dr. Peterson, and I think at this point we're about 50 episodes into the Badass Softy podcast, which has been so fun for me, to all the learning that I've been doing and kind of exploring the voice of what this community is going to be. And I really hope you've been getting a lot out of these conversations. I know I've heard from a number of you who have, and so I am so grateful for that and just the little community that we're building. My goal with all of this has been to help leaders and business owners lean into their own voice, to become more of who they are, not less, and to lead in a way that feels authentic and meaningful and aligned with the kind of impact and human that they want to be in this world, right? And while we've talked a lot about leadership, relationships, resilience, purpose, personal growth, all of that is really foundational, because what it should do is, once we realize that being softy is okay, being sensitive, being kind, being a good human, having good relationships is a good thing, and we want to lean into that, it comes to a point where all those things, the voices and all those things in your head of what we're building and what we're trying to do in the world, they need to actually leave and make it out into the world. And this is where the badass side comes in. You actually have to take your message, your vision, and put it out in the world in a way that connects with people that you're trying to serve. So you can actually make an impact. You can help people. You can make a difference in this world with your products, your services, your leadership. It's not just about connecting, but it's about moving them to action. When you're able to articulate clearly who you are and what you offer, then you encourage and challenge and really give the opportunity to people to buy your products, follow your vision, or hire you to work with them. That's where marketing comes in. In fact, that is the primary way that I help people. If you've been around me for very long at all, especially the last 10 years, you know that I have spent my career helping leaders and organizations communicate clearly through products and services, but specifically marketing. I help leaders, authors, speakers, organizations figure out what they want to be known for and then communicate it in a way that feels authentic, cuts through the noise, and connects with the right audience. Because at its best, marketing isn't a sales pitch. It's not trying to manipulate people to buy your product or pretending to be something you're not. It's the process of helping the right people understand who you are, what you do, and why it matters. And if you've ever felt like marketing was somehow separate from your values or your purpose, I'd actually like to argue the opposite. When it's done well, marketing is one of the most generous things you can do. Communicating clearly is a gift to your audience. It's how the people who need what you offer find you in the first place. In many ways, marketing is what happens when you have the courage to let other people experience your ideas. And because so many of you are business owners, entrepreneurs, consultants, authors, speakers, and leaders trying to create meaningful work in the world, I thought it would be valuable to spend a few episodes talking specifically about marketing. Not gimmicks, not hacks, not tricks, just some ideas that help you communicate your value more clearly so the people that you're trying to serve can actually find you. So today we are going to be kicking off a short marketing series. And over the next few episodes, I'm going to be interviewing and talking with people who are incredibly good at marketing, communication, and building brands. But before we get into those conversations, I wanted to start with an idea that has been showing up in almost every marketing strategy session that I've led over the past few years. So a lot of times what I do is I go in and spend a day with a company, with either just the leaders of the company or their full marketing teams or their sales teams. And I work with them for the day to help them clarify their message and then create a strategy to put it out in the world. And what I've discovered is most companies think they have a differentiation problem, as in they aren't able to clearly articulate how they are different than their competitors. And while there's a piece of that that's true, what they actually have is a clarity problem. They haven't figured out which of their differences, which they do have, matter most and how to communicate them in a way that makes people remember. They haven't decided what they want to be known for. And because of that, their marketing ends up trying to communicate everything. A few weeks ago, I was in a strategy session with a client, and we were trying to figure out why customers choose them instead of their competitors. Now, this is one of my favorite parts of the process because it's always fascinating to watch. I often just ask the simple question, what makes you different? And within a few minutes, the room fills with answers. Somebody talks about customer service. Somebody else talks about their process or the experience customers have with them. Somebody mentions technology, then relationships, their expertise, culture, responsiveness. And before long, you've got a whiteboard covered in reasons why customers should choose them. The funny thing to me is that most of these reasons are legitimate. And the problem isn't that they're wrong, is the problem is that nobody can remember all of them. And when you start putting all of them out there, you sound like everybody else. And this is often where many marketers and businesses get stuck. If we assume that if customers just knew more about us, then they would buy. If they understood every feature, every service, every capability, every little thing that makes us unique, then the decision would be obvious. We're better than everybody else. But customers aren't studying for an exam. They're busy. They're distracted. They're trying to run their business, raise their kids, answer emails, pay their bills, get to soccer practice, make dinners, just survive the week. And somehow, in the middle of it all, they're trying to remember who does what company does what, why do I need this person? Which means marketing isn't simply about communicating value. It's about making value memorable. Or maybe said another way, it's about deciding what you want to be known for. Because there's a lot of companies that are different, but far fewer companies are known. Think about brands like Volvo. To me, if I say Volvo, most people immediately think safety. It's not the only thing Volvo does. It's not even the only reason people buy a Volvo, but it's the thing they're known for. Oura Ring is known for helping you sleep. FedEx is known for overnight delivery. The strongest brands in the world are not necessarily the ones with the most value. They're often the ones that have decided which value they want customers to remember. And here's where I want to put on my professor hat for a minute, because there's actually some fascinating research behind this. One of the most well-known principles in psychology is something called Hick's Law. Hick's Law suggests that the more options people are given, the longer it takes them to make a decision. Now, that sounds obvious when you say it out loud, but marketers violate this all the time. We assume more information creates confidence, more reasons, more features, more benefits, more differentiators, more proof, more everything. That's going to be the reason people buy. But often what we're doing in that moment is we're actually creating more work for our customers. Researchers have studied this from a variety of angles, but one of the most famous examples is what is commonly called the jam study. I love me some jam. And I love me a farmer's market. And if I am at a farmer's market, I will not walk by a jam table without sampling, right? That's why I remember this study. So in this study, shoppers at markets, at farmers markets, would encounter two different displays. One display offered 24 varieties of jam. The other offered 6. Now, the larger display actually attracted more attention, but the smaller display generated significantly more purchases. People were intrigued by the larger selection, but they were more likely to act when they had fewer options to sort through. Now, obviously, your marketing isn't a table full of jam, but the principle still applies. The more things you ask people to evaluate, to remember, the harder it becomes for them to decide, which raises an important question. If too many options create friction, how many ideas should we actually be asking customers to remember? And this is where I've become a huge believer in what is known as the rule of three. The rule of three isn't just a marketing principle. It's a communications principle, storytelling, persuasive principle. You see it everywhere. You're going to start seeing patterns of what we call ideas grouped in a rule of three. So you'll hear things like beginning, middle, end. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Stop, drop, and roll. In an emergency, you call 911. There's something about three that in our brain feels complete. It gives people enough information to create a pattern without overwhelming them. In fact, when researchers study persuasion and recall, they consistently find that people tend to process and remember information more effectively when it's grouped into meaningful chunks versus long lists. Three is enough to create a framework, a pattern, a chunk. When you get to four, it starts to become a list. And five actually starts to feel like work, which is why one of the most valuable things that I do for clients is come in and listen to everything they do and how they're different. And I help them identify three value differentiators, three things they want to be known for. Not because they're only good at three things. Every company is good at more than three things. The question really isn't how many strengths you have. The question is, which strengths do you want people to remember? And it's the same thing for thought leaders. Can you boil down your ideas into three meaningful buckets that people can remember? If you can't, they are not going to know why they need you. Now, before we go any further, we should probably make an important distinction because as I get into this, this is where sometimes people get a little confused. When I'm helping a client identify value differentiators, I'm not just talking about a list of features and benefits. Those things matter, but they are answering a little bit different question. Features, for the purposes of this conversation, features are what you do. They're the features of your product that help your customer get the results they want. So features are kind of like what you do, the unique characteristics about your product or service. Benefits are what customers get because of those features. So features are what you do, benefits are what they get. Value differentiators are the most important reason a customer chooses you. And the reason this gets a little bit messy is because value differentiators can come from one of the features or the benefits, or they may not come from either. Because sometimes they're rooted in a feature, sometimes they're rooted in a benefit, but sometimes they're rooted in your process, your expertise, your philosophy, or the way you do business. You know, take a recruiting company, for instance. They might have proprietary technology, dedicated recruiters, nationwide network. Those are features. The benefits that gets customers might be faster hiring, better candidates, less work for your internal team. Those are benefits. And honestly, one of those benefits or features might end up becoming a value differentiator. If customers constantly choose you because you help them hire faster than anybody else, that's probably worth talking about. If the fact that you have unique, industry-specific recruiters and nobody else does that, that's worth talking about. What I'm trying to figure out is whether something belongs in the feature or benefit bucket, or really I'm trying to figure out what matters most to your customers. What are the reasons people are choosing you? What keeps coming up over and over again? What are the themes underneath all the things you do? So after I've looked at the features and the benefits and customer feedback and sales conversations and all the reasons people buy, I eventually land on three core ideas. So for this company, what I would probably choose is industry-specific recruiters, because that's something unique that their competitors don't have. Flexible options, probably because it is something that their customers have told me over and over again that they love. And hire faster, because really that is what their customers want. Sometimes it's a gut call, but really it comes down to answering the question, what do you want to be known for? Not because those are the only things your company does, they're not. But these are the three things that matter the most. And if that's true, those are probably the three things I want customers to remember. And one quick note here, because I think this also trips people up. When I say value differentiator, I don't necessarily mean something only you can say. In fact, very few companies have a value proposition that's completely unique and no other competitor can say. What I'm talking about are the reasons customers choose you, the things that matter most, the things you want people to remember. I keep using the word remember over and over and over again because that is really the key here. What do you want your customers to remember? So your team can consistently talk about it. A company will often come into a strategy with me with 15 different things they want to communicate, sometimes 20. And honestly, most of them are good. The challenge is that customers aren't going to remember those things. So I start looking for patterns. What belongs together? What themes keep showing up? What are the bigger ideas underneath all the bullet points? And eventually we narrow it down to 3. Again, not because the others aren't important, but because the others might support these 3 or are not as important as those 3. And once these ideas become clear, everything else becomes clearer in your marketing. The website gets easier to write. Marketing emails get easier to write. Sales presentations get easier. The team becomes more aligned because everybody is finally telling the same story. People often think branding and marketing is about logos, colors, fonts, and taglines, and those things matter. But at its core, marketing is really about association. When somebody hears your company's name, what immediately comes to mind? What do they associate with you, and what do they remember? Those are the real questions. And that's why identifying your value differentiator matters so much. It's not just deciding what to say, it's deciding what you want to be known for. So I do want to give you something really practical out of all of this. Here's a simple exercise I want you to do this week. Whether you are a thought leader, a company, an individual entrepreneur, this will help you. This exercise is going to help you begin to identify your differentiator in the market and how to talk about it. So here's what you do. Write down every reason why someone would choose your company or listen to you or buy from you. If you're a speaker, consultant, or coach or thought leader, write down every reason why somebody should pay attention. What's a unique thing that you're saying? And with this list, don't edit yourself. I want you to make a list. I hope you have 15, 20 ideas. Then start grouping similar ideas together. You're going to begin to notice themes and patterns. And when you're done, after kind of bringing all these 3 things together, ask yourself the question, what's most important? What do I really want to be known for? And choose 3. And then ask yourself a hard question. Are these 3 things showing up consistently in my website, my social media, my sales conversation, my presentation, your customer experience? Because if they're not, your customers probably don't know what they're supposed to remember either. And if they don't know what they're supposed to remember, they probably don't know what you're known for, and they probably won't hire you or buy from you. One of the biggest mistakes in marketing is believing our job is to communicate everything. It isn't. Our job is to help people understand the right things and remember them long enough to take action. The companies that win are not always the companies with the most value. They're often the companies that become known for something valuable. They've decided what they want to be remembered for, and then they've had the discipline to repeat it over and over and over again. And as we move into this marketing series, I want you to listen for that theme. Pay attention to the marketers, entrepreneurs, and communicators who figured out what they want to be known for. Because I think you'll discover that the most effective marketing isn't usually about saying more. It's about getting crystal clear on what matters most and having the courage to keep saying it. If you found this episode helpful, I would love for you to share it with a friend, a business owner, or somebody on a marketing team who's trying to figure out how to stand out in a crowded market. And if you're wrestling with this for your own company, what you should be known for, that's exactly the kind of work I do every day. I would love to help. Go to my website, drjjpeterson.com, so drjjpeterson.com, and reach out to me. We can have a conversation and we can figure out how I can come help you and your team clarify your message, be known for something, and reach more customers. So, as I wrap up things for this episode, I want you to make sure that you do the exercise that I gave you. Continue to clarify what you want to be known for and put it everywhere. And let me leave you with this. May you have the wisdom to recognize the unique value you bring. May you have the clarity to articulate it. And may you have the courage to simplify it. And may you have the discipline to keep showing up and repeating it until the people you're meant to serve can recognize it too. Because we believe you can be both ambitious and kind, fun and driven, powerful and deeply human. Your leadership can inspire, your success can have soul, and your ambition can make space for everyone. That's why you're a badass softie. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. Follow and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. BadassSoftie.com is crafted by Fruitful Design and Strategy.